Representative Nicole Malliotakis slammed left-wing criminal justice reform during a Staten Island press briefing on crime over the weekend. She was joined by Republican Representative Lee Zeldin, who is currently running for New York governor, and Allison Esposito, a former NYPD officer and his lieutenant governor nominee. Malliotakis endorsed both Zeldin and Esposito before slamming bail reforms and claiming, quote, "Under Governor Kathy Hochul, we are less safe."
At this time, I'm going to turn the podium over to Congresswoman Nicole Malliotakis.
Thank you. I want to thank the Detectives Union for bringing us here together, and I think it's an incredibly important time for our state. There is a crossroads ahead of us, and we have a decision to make. Are we going to continue to have a one-party Democratic rule leadership that has continued to coddle and embolden criminals, refusal to fix the disastrous bail law, proposals that would allow any convict over the age of 55 that serves 15 years, including murderers, and to support our law enforcement and give them the tools that they need to keep us safe? That's truly what's on the ballot this November. And I'm confident that Lee Zeldin, Allison Esposito, that they will bring the balance that is so necessary to our state to make sure that we have appropriate leadership that puts public safety first, as the people of this state are begging for. 3 out of 4 New Yorkers say public safety is their top issue. And it's because of policies like this, the disastrous bail law, which people with dozens of arrests are being released back onto the street, completely nonsensical policy. And then a parole board that has continually released dangerous people back onto our streets. And what is that message that is being sent to the criminal? That you can kill a cop and you don't have to serve a life sentence. It's emboldening the attacks that we're seeing on our men and women in blue, even teenagers having the audacity to attack law enforcement in our subways or on our streets because they don't feel that there are penalties. And unfortunately, there aren't. When we saw the riots in 2020, how many police officers were assaulted and then their charges were dropped? So today we're here because we know that unlike the Cuomo-Hochul administration that appointed a bunch of far-left individuals to the parole board streets, thanks to the parole board of Andrew Cuomo and Kathy Hochul. I know that Lee Zeldin will appoint common-sense individuals, law and order individuals, individuals who are serious about public safety, and we so desperately need that. You know, Paul mentioned Anthony Bottom. Anthony Bottom considers himself a political prisoner after he killed 2 police officers. And what happens? He goes and is a speaker at a state university, and you hear absolutely nothing from our governor. How can you allow a cop killer to speak at a state university and have no opinion? Zero opinion. To this day, she has not commented on having a cop killer talk to our youth at a local college. That's disgraceful, and that's not the type of leadership I think New Yorkers want. I think that, in addition to that, we have, right here on Staten Island, serial killers, by the way, that have been released through the parole board. George Willis, a self-proclaimed Jack the Ripper of Staten Island, a convicted pedophile, sexual predator, and killer of 2 teenage women, aged 17 and 19, who lived in our community. He was just released June 1st by the Cuomo-Hochul parole board. Chris Patterson strangled his fiancée to death and mutilated her body. Patterson, who's now 53 years old, was released in March. How is that justice for his 24-year-old victim? Matthew Popp, a convicted murderer of his own 3-month-old daughter here on Staten Island, was also released in March. He served less years in prison than his daughter would be years old today, 24. So that's why we're here today, because people have to understand that under Governor Kathy Hochul, we are less safe. She refuses to fix obvious common sense things like the bail law, for example, won't even allow judges to consider someone's dangerousness and criminal history to set bail. Won't even give the judges discretion. And then this ridiculous parole board that has released so many dangerous people, a slap in the face to the families of those victims, and a slap in the face to the law enforcement who are out there each and every day. And let me bring up one last thing, because I'm a huge John Lennon fan, and I was happy that his killer was not released on parole just last week. But let me tell you, if he was a cop killer, if he killed a cop instead of John Lennon, he'd be on the street like all of the others. And that is wrong. And that is why we need a new governor taking charge in this state. And with that, it's my pleasure to introduce our next governor, Lee Zeldin.